It's my pleasure and honor to welcome you on the second day of the annual meeting of the Initiative for Core Regions in Transition in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. The meeting is co-organized by the European Commission, the World Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Energy Community Secretariat, Poland's National Fund for Environmental Protection and Water Management, the College of Europe in Natolin, and the European Investment Bank. My name is Elodie Salle. I coordinate the Secretariat of the initiative, and I will be moderating today's meeting. I hope you're all fine and that you enjoyed also yesterday's meeting. So perhaps before we start, I would like to remind you of some housekeeping rules that you can see on the screen. So participants' microphones and cameras are turned off by default, and you can submit and send your questions in the chat function on the right side of your screen and select everyone. The event is recorded, and if you have any technical issues, please don't hesitate to send an email to the email address that you can see on the screen. We provide interpretation in Albanian, Bosnian, Croatian, English, Macedonian, Montenegrin, Polish, Russian, Serbian, and Ukrainian. You can access these languages via the Interactio app that you can download from the App Store or the Google Play. You just have to enter WBUA, and then you just choose the day of the event. So today is 24th of June, and you just select language and press connect. So, like yesterday, we had 2 warm-up questions. I would like to propose you to do the same thing today, to get to know a bit each other better. I think it's always nice, even if it's a digital meeting. So same question as yesterday. I'm curious to know if we have any new people today. So you just have to either connect on slide.com on the browser and enter WBUA, or you can use your phone, and with the QR codes you will be directly connected to Slido. So great, somebody from Greece, hello. Let's see, Montenegro, that's perfect. Washington, DC, hello. Colleagues from the World Bank, Brussels, Germany, Spain, that's great. Istanbul also, Macedonia, hello, good afternoon. Yes, Germany. Poland as well. Okay, 13 people. We're down to 100 participants at the moment. Let's wait a couple of seconds. From Tuzla region, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's great. Slovenia as well. Bosnia again. All right, that's a nice crowd. Bosnia again, more people from Bosnia. Czechia also, I see. Serbia, Kosovo, Ukraine, Netherlands. That's quite a diverse crowd. Hello, welcome. Czechia, Estonia also. All right, that's good. Poland, great. Perhaps let's move to the other question. Then we were wondering how to say welcome in your native language, because yeah, I speak English, French, also a bit of Spanish, but I was wondering if you could also learn from each other and how to say welcome in your native language. I won't be able to read everything. But it's nice to see the diversity, I think, of all the countries represented, and the many alphabets also. Okay, many different languages, 17 people. Yeah, we're reaching the 100 participants. That's great. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, it's a welcome slide with all the languages, I hope, from the Western Balkans and Ukraine. That's great to see. I see some Italians also. In Estonian also, that's great. Thank you very much. In Polish as well. All right, thank you very much. It's really nice to see. I hope you enjoyed these few questions to warm up a bit. And now I propose that we move on a bit on our agenda. And for the ones who haven't been able to join or hadn't the time to join, I wanted to give a bit of highlights of yesterday's session. We had very nice exchanges and very interesting and inspiring presentations. It started with keynote speakers, first of all from the European Commission, Mrs. Paola Pignon from the Director General for Energy. She really highlighted the objective of the initiative, which is to create space and forum for all stakeholders to meet and to engage in concrete discussions on just transitions towards a climate-friendly energy system. And she really highlighted the fact that the EU is strongly committed to work together with the Western Balkans and Ukraine to move forward on a path towards decarbonizing the energy sector in Western Balkans and Ukraine. Then we had the intervention from Mrs. Katarina Matanova from the Directorate General for Neighbourhood and Enlargement Negotiations. She mentioned the recent adoption in October 2020 by the European Commission of the Economic and Investment Plan for the Western Balkans, which aims to stimulate the long-term economic recovery of the region and support green and digital transition. She also mentioned that a similar plan is being prepared for Ukraine. Then we had an intervention from Mr. Samir Shukla from the World Bank, who really highlighted the fact that transition needs to be managed conscientiously to make it less disruptive. People and communities need to be at the center of the discussion, so it needs to be just an inclusive transition. He also highlighted the fact that there are many experiences available for the regions of Western Balkans and Ukraine, and that they can learn from. And he reminded also the commitments of the World Bank in providing support to all regions in transition located in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. Then we had very nice and animated also panel discussions. We had 3 of them. The first one was focusing on socio-economic challenges. So really panel 1 gave voices to local stakeholders also from Bosnia and Herzegovina and also Macedonia. They shared the view on the transition in their countries and the challenges that they were facing and the support that the initiative can provide. Then the intervention from the Rice Foundation outlined the socio-economic challenges along the lines of fear, fury, and trust of the local communities. Finally, key actions to speed up the just transition in the Western Balkans were outlined, as well as the necessary steps and available funding opportunities, including the necessity to consider the voices from the community. Then we moved on to panel 2, which was focusing on environmental and repurposing challenges. This second panel also features views from the local stakeholders and also on the possibility of coal mine repurposing from the Bosnian and Herzegovina and Ukrainian perspective. Then we welcome also the CEO from DTEC Energy Company, who shared some experience in how to give support to the Ukrainian mines in the closure process. Finally, experience was shared regarding transition and the planned coal mine phase out in Poland. Finally, we had panel 3 on clean energy transition. We started with an intervention for the mayor of Plevia in Montenegro, who stressed the need to address the lack of awareness in the local communities. This was his intervention was complemented by a Montenegrin member of the parliament who updated us on the status of the thermal power plan, which has a significant impact on citizens and the economy. We then had a presentation from Agora Energiewende on replacing lignite with renewables. This was also illustrated by a case study made from North Macedonia. Then panelists highlighted the importance of the Sofia Declaration, which gives an end date to decarbonize the economy, and it was also stressed the gender perspective, and also that women should be empowered to be part of the clean energy transition. So yes, that was in a nutshell what we discussed, what we heard about yesterday from the three panel discussions and also from the keynote speakers. Now I propose that we go quickly through the agenda and to see what is on the menu of today. So we will start with the presentation from the Secretariat of the Initiative for Core Regions in Transition in Western Balkans and Ukraine, and also lessons learned and synergies with what we call the sister initiative, so the Initiative for Core Regions in Transition in the European Union. Then we will have a session with what we call principals or international organizations, also partnering within this initiative. So if you're curious to know what is the involvement of the international partners in the initiative, that's a session to listen to. You will be also able to ask questions, so don't hesitate to do that. We'll have then a short break and then dive into one of the core activity of the Secretariat, which is the Core Regions Exchange Program. We'll have 1 full hour to present you this program, and then we'll have a conclusion, and it will be time to end this meeting. So at 5 Central European Summer Time, or 6 if you are joining from Ukraine. All right, I think I've talked enough. I would like now to move on to the first session and to give the floor to my colleague Iryna from the Secretariat, who will be introducing you the Secretariat. Hi, Iryna.
Hi, Lady. Thank you very much for this introduction. And indeed, it's my pleasure and honor today to present the Secretariat of the Initiative for Core Regions in Transition in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. The next slide, please. So the Secretariat of the Initiative was launched in February this year, and it's one of the main purposes of the Secretariat is to be the main contact point for the regions, and particularly for the stakeholders in the regions, through, on the one hand, through the website of the initiative, or through the web pages on the Commission's website, and on the other hand, through the dedicated email box that you can see on the on the screen right now. And the Secretariat is led by the European Commission and implemented by a consortium of different organizations. You can see them also on the screen, but of course there are people behind those organizations, and you can see the photos of some of them on the screen as well. So if you write an email to this email address on the screen, you will probably get a reply from one of those people here. The next slide, please. The strategic objectives of the Secretariat is to facilitate and to advance the multi-stakeholder and region-wide dialogue on the related to the energy transitions and in the Western Balkans and Ukraine, and to promote political dialogue around the transitions agenda. We are also focusing on facilitating the development of strategies and projects that are facilitating just energy transitions, and we are also functioning as a focal point for core regions in transition in the Western Balkans and Ukraine, particularly to all questions related to the implementation of the initiative and to the support that they can get through the initiative. The next slide, please. We were talking a lot about the regions, the coal regions in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. And here we would like to introduce those regions that we identified in our preliminary screening. And I would like to highlight here that this screening is indeed preliminarily, because on the one hand, it's up to the regions themselves to actively engage and be involved in the initiative. And on the other hand, other regions that are coal intensive or that identify themselves as coal regions are welcome to join the initiative. The next slide, please. The work of the Secretariat can be structured alongside three main streams, so to say, and the first one is to build the community of stakeholders and to engage them in this region-wide and multi-stakeholder dialogue. We were talking a lot yesterday about the ownership of regions, of the communities in the regions, of the transitions, of the local energy transitions, to make them really just transitions. And that's also one of the main objectives of the Secretariat, to make this discussion and this dialogue indeed very inclusive. That's why we are aiming to build a database of stakeholders where very different groups of stakeholders will be represented, starting from local authorities, regional authorities, national authorities, and moving to representatives of private sector, civil society organizations, trade unions, academia, and so forth. We will address them, and we are already addressing them, to join this initiative and to engage with it through different communication activities, such as through the information on our web pages, but also through press releases, webinars, newsletters, and so on. And of course, we're very conscious that we need to talk in the local languages, that we need to talk from the local perspective. That's why all of our activities are implemented with the support of the teams of local communications and local thematic experts based in the countries and the territories. And on this slide, for example, you can see the invitations to this event kindly prepared by our local communication experts in the local languages. The next slide, please. Another direction of the work of the Secretariat is to organize events like this one, for example, and to provide logistical support to the activities of the Secretariat. Indeed, we foresee these annual initiative meetings, and they are aimed on the one hand on raising awareness, ensuring knowledge sharing, but at the same time at building the community of stakeholders. We'll be also organizing local workshops to have the discussion indeed on the ground, and we are ready to have those events and activities both as virtual or as hybrid events. We're also very conscious about the need to provide interpretation at these events. A very big thank you to the team of our interpreters, and we're very much looking forward to providing support to the activities of Coal Regions Learning Academy implemented by the College of Europe, which is also part of this initiative. The next slide, please. And finally, one of the also key directions of the key streams of work of the Secretariat is the implementation of the Coal Region Exchange Program. I will not go into detail here, but I will invite you to join our session today at 3:45 at Central European Summer Time. And there you will learn more about this initiative, about this program and how you can engage in it and how you can also benefit from participating in it. Thank you very much. That's it from my side. And I'm passing the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Iryna, for this presentation. Yeah, speaking about the Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition in the European Union, I would now like to give the floor to my colleague Carlo Della Libera, who is also coordinating the Secretariat for the Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition in the European Union. Carlo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elodie. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Iryna, for the very nice presentation of the work of the Secretariat for the Coal Regions in Transition initiative in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. I'm Carlo Della Libera, as Elodie mentioned before, and I'm coordinating the activities of the Secretariat for the Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition in the EU. If we can start with the slides. Yes. So the initiative for co-regions in transition was launched in December 2017 with the aim to assist EU countries and coal, peat, and oil shale regions in achieving a low carbon economy within the framework of a just transition in order to achieve the climate objective of the EU. And among the many services that the initiative was providing, it's one of the most important is to provide an open forum for a stakeholder dialogue that brings together many different stakeholders, starting from the European institution as well as international organization, and most of all, local, regional, and national government, but not only, all the trade unions, civil society, NGOs, and industry representative as well as academia. And the initiative is open to EU regions that are willing to embark in the transition journey with the current ones. The next slide, please. From early 2019, a secretariat has been put in place to support the very nice and intensive work of the European Commission in the implementation of the initiative. It is managed by a consortium led by a chorus in partnership with the ICLEI, with the Wuppertal Institute and Climate Strategies, and has several tasks similar to what Iryna explained about this secretariat, and going from being a single contact point for stakeholders to provide opportunities for stakeholders to get together and talk to each other and listen to interesting panels, as we're doing these days with the Western Balkans and Ukraine initiative, to also provide materials, support materials, as well as technical assistance to support regions in their pathway towards a just transition, and to provide communication activities of the different elements of the initiative. In the next slides, we will give a bit of very quick overview of where we stand with the different activities. As I said before, connecting stakeholders is one of the key role of the initiative. So far, 6 meetings took place in Brussels, so physically in Brussels, 3 in 2018 and 3 in 2019. We sadly had to move to a virtual setting, and we have carried out 3 virtual meetings so far, with the next one upcoming likely in the end of November. Sadly, still in a virtual environment, but hopefully from next year on we will be back to a physical events. Along with the working group meetings, 2 annual political dialogue have been organized in 2018 in Katowice in Poland and in 2019 in Görlitz in Germany. 2020 there was no annual political dialogue due to the pandemic, and the same we hope that there will be an upcoming one in the coming months. And the next slide, please. I think there were other slides, but I can also do it without. So the Secretariat is also tasked to provide supporting materials in the form of toolkit, case studies, good practices that are available on the website of the initiative. So I strongly recommend you to visit the website and look on the resources database, where you will see all this information, where nice examples are provided. Also, we are going ahead with the technical assistance in 7 regions in the EU, in Poland, Romania, Ireland, Spain, Czech Republic, and Greece. This is run by a team of experts led by our senior advisor for the platform, Robert Pollock and Paul Baker. And then, of course, we invite you to look at the website of the initiative, subscribe to newsletter, and to receive more information on the work carried out by the initiative. So what have we learned in these 2 years of work of the Secretariat? First of all, that is all about engagement and involvement of stakeholders, because at the end of the day, the platform provides an opportunity to exchange experience and but also to help stakeholders in shaping the kind of support that they wish to receive, of course, within the scope of the initiative. So your feedback is extremely important to shape the work of the initiative. So please do it. I think I can pass this message also for both secretariats during, after the events, or any other initiative. What we have learned is that we need to provide creative solutions for challenges that sometimes are not possible to foresee. It is an example what happens with the pandemic, that we have to switch to virtual environment because transition doesn't wait. So we need to keep on doing the work that we're doing, and especially in the regions to keep on doing the journey you're embarked in. Tailored support is needed to overcome specific and local challenges in the communities, and that's again requires a constant dialogue and a co-creation approach with the regions involved in the initiative. In this regard, good practices are always welcomed. I also invite you to share, if you're aware of good practices or needs for good practice with the within your transition journey. It's very we realize it's very important to get inspired by good practices of past experience, but also ongoing, in order to discuss together among regions. Beyond the formal activities of the Secretariat and of the initiative, it's we witnesses the creation of self-developing initiatives, such as cross-country cooperation between regions. We witnesses also the creation and sign of a memorandum of understanding within local communities to join together in a just transition, in their just transition journey, together to make the most out of synergies of different communities. The next slide. Of course, the two secretariats will work very closely together, both in the practical terms, in order to learn from each other when it comes to technicalities, for example, on event organization, or speakers that could be engaged in the different events, but also more on the way that the technical assistance is provided, but also on the experience, on gathering experience from the different areas. EU regions can well benefit from experience in Western Balkans and Ukraine, and the other way around. So this dialogue between different experience is absolutely crucial. The two secretariats will meet regularly. We share the same premises, so it's also quite possibly it's possible to do it very often, and we will keep on doing that in order also to match needs and opportunities between the two secretariats. Finally, communication activities we try to be coordinated as much as possible, and again here I invite you to visit the websites of the initiatives and keep to keep updated on what is going on, and then subscribe to the newsletter. I think this is it for the moment from my side. For any questions you might have or information you would like to have, please contact your secretariat, and I'm sure we will find a way to get back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlo, for this very concise and very informative also presentation. Thank you very much also to Iryna. Okay, I think now it's time to move on to the next session. So when preparing this meeting and looking at the agenda, we wanted, of course, give a possibility to local stakeholders to voice their the experience. So that's why yesterday we really focused on hearing from voices from the regions, and we wanted also to provide you an overview of the different activities of the what we call principles. So it's organizations which are managing the initiative. So now we will start with the first presentation from the European Commission. So there will be that will be presented by Brieuc Posnic, who is a policy coordinator at the Directorate General for Energy at the European Commission. And yes, I now give you the floor, Brieuc. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can, Elodie, and I hope you can hear me back.
Yes, loud and clear.
Super.
Floor is yours.
Many thanks, Elodie, for the introduction. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today, with you all, and on behalf of the European Commission. I'm happy to wish you a very warm welcome to this second day of our event. To begin with, I would like to use maybe one short minute of my intervention to recall why we, the European Commission, are part of this very important initiative. And for that, I would ask for my first slide, if possible. Thank you very much. So the EU, with its Green Deal, has adopted a very ambitious energy and climate policy to cut emissions by 55% by 2030 and to reach climate neutrality by 2050. This will require a lot of efforts for all of our member states, especially those that rely on coal for energy production today. But this will also create enormous economic activity opportunities, good local jobs in clean, future-proof sectors. It will improve the quality of life of our citizens. It would improve the quality of our air, of our environment. So all this without even sacrificing on our energy security, as we are going to move towards renewable energy. So really a difficult and complicated transition, but a transition to something that is better than what we have today, and this for everyone. This transition, however, it will mean very little if we are the only ones to do it. The EU is not an island. Our grid is interconnected with that of our neighbors. Electricity flows in and out. And there are benefits in doing this transition together with our neighbors rather than alone, specifically because we're interconnected. These benefits, they are, of course, for the EU, but they're also for the Western Balkans and Ukraine, because if we do this transition together, we will do it faster, we will do it better, we will do it for cheaper, and doing that, we will also continue to improve the integration of our energy systems across Europe, and therefore moving towards a closer integration, which is also an important political objective. So this is why we have committed to work together on decarbonization and on ensuring a just transition for those that are affected by the transition. And when I say we, I mean the EU, of course, but I also mean the Western Balkans and Ukraine, with political commitments that were taken in Brussels and in Sofia last year to work together on just transition and on decarbonization of our economies. This will be a team effort. And our ultimate objective here is not just to phase out coal, not just to phase out coal for the sake of it, but to do it in a way that is fair to the people and to the regions that currently live off coal. This is just transition. This is what the EU wants to champion. This is what the EU does internally, and this is the kind of approach we want to project also externally. So a team effort, as I said, and this is why you have so many partners around this virtual table. The Commission is not alone. We partnered up with very competent other organizations. All bring a different kind of expertise and a different way of working with the Western Balkans and Ukraine. But we will all basically work together in the same direction so that we can empower coal regions across the Western Balkans and Ukraine to move towards this notion of just transition, of fairness in the clean energy transition. So for the European Commission, I'm talking about different kind of expertises here. And for the European Commission, as my colleague Carlo explained before, this expertise comes from the EU Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition, which is helping coal regions in the EU basically to work together and learn from each other on how to perform a just transition. And our objective here, our added value as European Commission to this initiative, is to try to do the same for the Western Balkans and Ukraine. So if I can have my next slide, you will see that we will do so via 3 different kinds of activities. Some minutes ago, Iryna touched upon some of them. I would like to go slightly deeper into them. The first kind of activity is basically events like this one, when we are all gathered, we gather participants from all across the region, and we take time to discuss topics of general interest for everyone. These kind of events, we'll organize them once per year, so that not only do we discuss these things, but also we are allowed to take stock of the progress we make year after year. And I really hope that next year, when we meet again in this sort of plenary format, we can report on a lot of progress, let's say, in the first year of our initiative. So this is also important to keep these kind of meeting moments regular so that we can keep progressing. And one point I want to insist on here is that we want to build these events with you so that you can tell us what is important for you to know, what kind of examples you need to hear from, so that you get some inspiration. And to do that, you can reach out to us directly, of course, but we will also reach out to you. And that's a bit the second point here. After the summer, we will start organizing these local workshops together with you in coal regions of the Western Balkans and Ukraine. And the objective of that activity will be to bring all the stakeholders of one given region around a single table. That means mayors, CEOs of coal companies, heads of trade unions, representatives of NGOs, researchers, all of these relevant people, those that have a stake in the transition, let's say, can participate to these debates, start reflecting together on what the future of the region could be. And this could seem like a sort of simple step, but that's actually a very powerful exercise. It takes some effort to bring all these people that sometimes have contradicting views together to discuss, but this actually creates a very powerful dynamic in one region. And we have seen that with some regions in the EU, what Carlo was mentioning before with our technical assistance. This is actually a very powerful exercise. And we're very happy to start basically doing that locally in the Western Balkans and Ukraine soon. And final activity that we'll propose, it's an exchange program for coal regions of the EU and of the Western Balkans and Ukraine so that they can work together and exchange a bit, well, on common challenges, but also on some of the solutions that we started to see emerge in the EU, but also in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. We actually piloted a bit this approach with Bosnia and Herzegovina and Ukraine, thanks to the World Bank and the National Fund for Environment and Water Management of Poland. And I know my colleagues Michael and Artur will explain a bit about this later, but these pilots will now be scaled up by this program, and that's a bit the message here. We will scale up these activities. All of these tasks, they are performed with support from our Secretariat, which you just met. The Commission, the European Commission funds this Secretariat, and we were very lucky now to have a lot of very competent and motivated colleagues to help us work on this very important issue. You've met Elodie, and I hope Elodie, who is, let's say, the main face of this Secretariat, will become a familiar name and face for you, a person that you can think of when you have a question about this initiative, and you know, what kind of support could I benefit from? What can you do to help me? When is the next event? All these kind of questions. I hope you can feel confident in contacting our Secretariat directly. The Secretariat is here for that, is to make your life simpler by giving you this single entry point for this initiative that has many partners. As Commission, we continue, of course, our bilateral work with our partners in the region, whether they are candidate countries, potential candidate, or neighborhood countries. We have, of course, a cooperation agenda with each with each of the single partners in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. We continue doing that. These initiatives come on top. But let's say we really want and we hope that we can use what we do in this initiative to really go further in the way we work together on the energy transition and on just transition in our bilateral cooperation. So when we discuss programs and cooperation at the bilateral level, we really hope that this can be a theme that can be featured more prominently in the way we work together. So this is not an initiative that is disconnected from the EU cooperation with the Western Balkans and Ukraine, but it's very much steering our overall cooperation with the region. Now, we only have so much time, and because this is very much a team effort, as I said many times already, each institution present today has something very unique to offer, and that's why I'm quite happy to stop here and confidently hand over the floor back to you, Elodie, so that we can hear from all of our other very interesting colleagues. And thank you very much for your attention.
Many thanks, Brieuc. Thank you very much. I would like to kindly remind participants to pose any questions if you have any, so you can use the chat function and send your question to everyone so that we can see, and I'll be happy to then read the question out loud. So now let's indeed move to the other presentation. And as mentioned yesterday by Mr. Samir Shukla, the World Bank is highly committed in this initiative for core regions in transition in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. So I would like to welcome on the stage or virtual stage Mr. Michael Stanley, who is the Extractive Lead and Energy and Extractive from the World Bank. I hope, Michael, you can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Elodie?
Perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Well, it's good to see you all this afternoon. So many familiar faces, friends and colleagues. So it's a pleasure to join you today. I will give the outline, as Brieuc just said, as one of the principles of this initiative. I will describe the activities of the World Bank in Western Balkans and Ukraine. Next slide, please. On Tuesday of this week, the World Bank released its climate action plan, and it's a 5-year commitment globally. It applies to all of the region of Western Balkan and Ukraine, but all regions of the world. And within that, we have a very strong and very definitive commitment to assist countries in the energy transition, and specifically countries where there will be a transition away from coal. And so I think that's a very important signal from our institution that we have, as Elodie said, we have a very deep, lasting and long commitment to assist regions. Next slide, please. Across the world, the key message that we are sharing with all of our client countries is that now is the time to plan and prepare for energy transition. Whether you are in a very large coal region or a very small coal region, the downward pressure on coal production, coal mining, continues. And that's the result, as Brieuc said, of what's happening downstream, where renewable, low-cost renewable energy is penetrating markets where until now coal has really very much dominated. And so our message is that this commercial downward pressure is unrelenting. It will continue today, tomorrow, and into the future. And so we really need to assist everyone to plan and prepare for some significant disruption in the coal sector. Next slide, please. The World Bank, for more than 5 decades, has been providing assistance to coal regions, to coal closures, coal mine closures in particular. And one of the requirements that we have is that we continually review what we have done and our lessons learned. And from that, we improve upon methodologies and approaches, and we improve upon the knowledge that we can produce and share with our client countries. So if you're in Western Balkans and Ukraine, I can tell you that we have over 5 decades experience in and around Central Europe, Southeastern Europe. And so we can certainly share with you and bring to you a lot of our own experience and lessons learned. And as Brieuc said, lessons learned are one of the most important pieces of information that can be shared today. Next slide, please. Elodie, in her opening remarks, summarized yesterday, and I thought that was a terrific session yesterday. It very much emphasized and underscored that people and communities are at the center of this transition. And we are quite aware of the fact that we have to give attention to workers, whether they're direct workers employed by enterprises or indirect workers. They may be contract workers, but we have to focus very much on workers. And then as a second ring, sometimes less attention goes to the small to medium enterprises that provide goods and services to coal mines and coal transport. And so there are a great many workers that are in that space and enterprises, and we have to make sure that we have a mapping of them and we understand all of the impacts that will happen to these small to medium enterprises also. And then in that third ring, the purple ring, we have to think about communities because, as we know, coal regions often are dominated by the coal production. And so the coal enterprise may support the health clinic, the shops, the schools, the restaurants, food services, et cetera, et cetera. And so if there is a closure of a coal mine, it impacts that entire coal community. So we spend a great deal of time mapping and understanding the linkages between the coal mine, the workers, direct, indirect, these small to medium enterprises, and that greater community. Next slide, please. Although we have a global program and a global approach, we recognize that we need very much to have unique and bespoke, or what we call tailored approaches to each coal region. And so each coal region prepares its own plan, its own transition plan, and each coal region identifies its own transition projects. So within one country, if you have multiple coal regions, you may have multiple transition plans, each one very bespoke or tailored to the needs of that particular region. Next slide, please. You've heard a great deal about just transition for all. I will just say it's a compound definition. We focus on bringing together a lot of stakeholders, union workers, formal workers, informal workers, community members, regional planners, central planners, so that we have this very inclusive dialogue. We also focus on strengthening institutions so that everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. And as I said, we focus very much on people and communities to make sure that we mitigate the impacts to them, and that we have good environmental remediation of lands. And lastly, very importantly, we work to bring in the private sector so that we have sustained growth and regeneration economically within these regions. Next slide. We work with three principal time periods. We focus on pre-closure, and I think for the purpose of today, we're focusing very much on this planning and preparation. The better the planning and preparation, the better the long-term outcomes. And so on the next slide, I'll speak to that. We also pay a lot of attention to the closure process itself to make sure that a good closure does not leave a legacy issue or a liability that impedes growth and regeneration of the region. And then, of course, a very long-lived regional transition. And on this, I will just say that we should expect that for many years going forward, programmatic support from World Bank and other development banks and other development partners will be required to ensure that we have a good regeneration, or what we call a transformation of the economy of that region. Next slide, please. The initiative, the Coal Regions in Transitions Initiative for Western Balkans and Ukraine, delivers two very important pieces of assistance. The first is knowledge, as I've said. So we, together with the other principals, we compile case studies. We look at good practice guidance that we can share. We bring toolkits. And as Brieuc just mentioned, we have been very pleased to partner with on two study tours, the first with government of Poland and FOSH, and so that Ukraine and Poland are having a good exchange of their experiences and lessons learned. And then secondly, Bosnia-Herzegovina is partnering actually with US, what we call Appalachia. That's the very large coal region in the eastern US. Again, so we have this very good exchange of lessons learned. We also bring early grant-funded technical assistance. So we do a lot of baseline assessment. As I said, the mapping of that ecosystem, the mapping of the workers, the linkages between the small to medium enterprises, and then all of those broad community linkages, so that we have a very good understanding of where all the impacts are likely to fall. And then in longer term and very heavy detailed assistance, we provide lending operations where we focus on closures, ensuring that we have good closures, that we have social programs in place to support workers, strong programs in place for community-led growth and community-led development. So important that the community has a strong leadership role in this. and that we have a regional transition. And so across this entire space, this platform, this initiative is focusing on the dissemination of knowledge. And through that, many of the principals are delivering this early technical assistance. And then think of this initiative as a door that opens, leading all of the principals to be able to deliver this longer term assistance that's required for regional transition. I will just mention that we are one of I think 5 or 6 principals now, and we're very pleased to partner with all that are presenting this afternoon to you. So we are one of several that are working in a very integrated and cohesive way. Next slide. And with that, I will stop and thank you so much. Good to see you all.
Thank you very much, Michael, for this very comprehensive presentation. Thanks again. We have another international financial institution also, which is part of the initiative for co-regions in transition in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. So it's my pleasure now to welcome Andi Aranitasi from the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. Please, Andi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Elodie, and good afternoon to all. I will speak a little bit about EBRD's role in this bigger family of principles that are working together in Western Balkans and Ukraine, as Michael just referred to them. For us, both the decarbonization and the just transition element that comes with it are very important and relevant in our region, including especially the social impact of the transition. This is because, for better or worse, in the countries in the EBRD region, they are much more carbon intensive and coal intensive than, let's say, the European Union or even the world on average. For instance, the EBRD region, even though it's a little bit under 40 countries, it contains about 25% of the global coal reserves, with the largest located in Kazakhstan, Poland, Russia, and Ukraine. Under our green economy transition 2021-25 approach, we have set ourselves a new target to reach a green finance ratio of more than 50% by 2025. Our intention is to achieve this by focusing on aligning our activities with the Paris Agreement, which we expect to do by the beginning of 2023, so it will be fully aligned, through policy engagement for low carbon strategies, and obviously, because we are a lending and project-driven institution, also through scaling up investment in areas such as the green digital solutions, just transition, circular economy, natural capital, and the green value chain and financing. In line with our GET 2021-25 approach, and to contribute to the Just Transition Initiative overall, we launched our own Just Transition Initiative in May last year with a focus on the private sector. As you know, EBRD is about 3/4 of its annual business volume is in the private sector, so we are a more, let's say, private sector-driven institution. And this initiative is intended to bring together our experience and instruments in the green and inclusion components. Obviously, there are institutions that have been dealing with this for longer. As Michael said, the World Bank has been doing this for 5 decades now. So our focus is going to be a little bit more concentrated and to support delivering just transition in a number of targeted areas that we as EBRD feel are crucial to the regions to decarbonize, to develop new skills, and also to attract new finance. So the first focus is going to be simply in supporting the just transition regions to become greener. And a good example here of what EBRD has been doing is in North Macedonia, actually, where I'm based. We have been supporting since 2019 ESM, which is the public electricity generation utility, to implement solar plants as part of their portfolio. We already have an existing 10 megawatt solar plant, which is being constructed at the moment. And it may not sound like a big one, but in the context of North Macedonia, which has less than 30 megawatt, this is very big. And at the moment, we're also working with the ESM, as I mentioned, the utility, to construct a further 10 megawatt on the exhausted coal mine, which is captive to the thermal power plant in Oslo, which is one of the 2 big coal plants that North Macedonia has. The other one is a 20 megawatt plant, which is adjacent to the thermal power plant in Bitola, which is the bigger coal-fired power plant in North Macedonia, which produces about 50% of the country's electricity. Additionally to that, we have supported the Macedonian government to actually launch and conclude successfully tenders to construct a further 100 megawatt on a PPP basis on the Oslo coal mine territory. So this is more like just on the project side and supporting essentially the regions become greener. The second part where we want to focus is obviously, as Michael also mentioned in his presentation, is to support the impacted workers of the transition. And a couple of examples of what we've been doing is one with ESM itself, again in North Macedonia. We're engaging with them and with the government, trying to analyze and identify the deeper social implications of the just transition and the challenges that this brings to the regional development of the region. And we're actually working with the government to define redeployment and reskilling opportunities for the workers that are currently employed in the power plant and the captive mine, and to develop labor market initiatives with the aim to retrain the local workforce in the region with all the stakeholders. Another example of what we've been doing, for example, is in Poland, where we financed actually 60 million euros as part of Eurobond issued by Tauron, which is the one of the largest energy providers in Poland, for distribution and grid renewable energy investment. And as part of it, the company first committed to the closure of its coal plants and increasing the use of renewable energy, which is a big step. But also the second commitment of the company as part of this bond is to develop a program to address the potential social impact of closing the coal plants in Silesia. And it's a project which is also consistent with the Poland's national strategy for climate neutrality and net zero targets, as well as its recently revealed energy policy until 2040. Our third focus is also to simply try to support the regional economic diversification, which is, I think, one of the ways to try and create alternative jobs and then facilitate growth of alternative economic opportunities in a range of sectors. One of them, for instance, is the city of Wrocław in Poland, where we have financed the construction of a lithium-ion battery for electric vehicles, and also supported a technology company called Informatica, looking to support further product development marketing efforts. So these are the type of activities that we try to get involved in on a concrete basis to diversify the economic base and to provide jobs in the affected regions. Apart from obviously the project-related work that we often do, we get involved also in our countries of operations through policy dialogue to help them design and implement just transition plans. Again, the reason why I see me today is because in North Macedonia, we have made the first concrete effort as a BRD, where we have teamed up with the local EU delegation and with the government, of course, to support the preparation of a just transition diagnostic for the country. The idea of it being to essentially design and implement a just transition plan, including with a focus on social implications of the transition, such as the reskilling and upskilling and redeployment opportunities I mentioned. And this is being done very much in line with what the EU member countries are doing to prepare their just transition territorial plans. If North Macedonia, for example, was an EU country today, which I hope one day it will become, it would be able to use this plan essentially to access the funds that the EU is preparing for its member states through its just transition platform and mechanism. Now, for us, the partnerships and the international cooperation between all of our institutions is very key to delivering just transition. And this platform initiative actually is a great example. We do keep, obviously, in regular contact with the Commission on the just transition mechanism to support our countries' operations in EU to design and implement the just transition territorial plans. But we also work with all other stakeholders and principals here, including the World Bank, the EIB, the Energy Community Secretariat, and others. We are also very closely involved, as you know, in working with all the multilateral development banks to advance international support for just transition ahead of COP26. The joint MDB Paris Alignment Working Group focusing on just transition actually completed the first phase of the joint work, and now the common principles for MDB support for a just transition are being developed. These principles will provide a high-level guidance, I think, to ensure that the MDBs consistently, credibly, and transparently contribute to the aims of just transition, while acknowledging the tailored operational definitions and country priorities and needs. And I think this is a very important part of what we're all doing together. This is my short presentation. I will stop here, and thank you for inviting me, for the attention.
Thank you very much, Andi, for your presentation. Another important international organization also, which is a member of the initiative or important organization, is the Energy Community Secretariat, which I'm sure you know about. So I would like now to invite on the floor Dirk Buschle, who is Deputy Director and Legal Counsel at the Energy Community Secretariat. So Dirk, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Elodie, and welcome everybody. Definitely our heart as the energy community is in this project, evidently because the countries we're talking about here are our contracting parties, and we really have been with them, as they say, in good times and in bad times, in their successes, their failures, in crisis. And now we're facing one of the greatest challenges of them all, and that's the energy transition. And it is clear that the energy community and the Energy Community Secretariat will help them in this situation as well. It is, when I talk and mean helping, I mean shaping the energy transition. We need to be careful, I believe, when we go straight to the notion of a just transition, because the first, and that is actually an important point of departure, the first point of departure for our initiative here as well is to acknowledge that the transition is here, that transition has arrived and it is not going to go away. So just transition is evidently not a surrogate or something else for transition. It is a way to shape the transition, and it is a way to ensure that it takes place in a fair and equitable manner. In this sense, shaping means and is an opportunity for our contracting parties, for their companies and for their regions to regain and to keep autonomy. In other words, not to depend on whether a foreign investor may or may not just withdraw from financing a coal project, for instance, but to already prepare investments in better projects, in more interesting, more future-oriented projects, and make sure that the investors also come and give a life back, an economic life and a perspective back also to the regions that we are talking about here. And for this, evidently, we need the tools. That's maybe the most important element and lesson learned also from the Green Deal in the European Union. We've been hearing about that. It is essentially a set of tools, and the most important of these tools in the experience of the European Union again are targets and plans. Targets that are ambitious enough, but at the same time that are not choking the economies, and plans that are honest. That's the first and most important criterion for such a plans, to just be open, transparent, and honest with the regions, with the companies, with the investors, because it is actually the lack of predictability for workers, for citizens, for regions, for investors, which is risking choking the economy. It is not the ambition, it is the lack of clarity, the lack of honesty. And that's what we're doing with our contracting parties in the framework of a tool which has been experienced with, or which has gained experience in the European Union, the National Energy and Climate Plans, where just transition, elements of just transition, elements of regional transition evidently play a very big role. Now, another point of departure for a just transition, and an important element, is respect to the rule of law. I'm saying that because the energy community is indeed, as you mentioned, Elodie, is an international organization founded on respect for the rule of law. And as part of honesty, it is also important that we accept and live up to the commitments that have been made earlier. I'm referring here to things that I understand have been discussed already yesterday, commitments taken by the contracting parties to reduce the pollution coming from coal-fired power plants, where the region, Western Balkans and Ukraine, are by far exceeding the legally applicable thresholds and the European Union average. So that is a matter of respect also for commitments. The same goes for not continue to subsidize coal production. All this is respect for the law, but also honesty. It's the honesty that comes with acknowledging that we are in a transition. It's not about denying that transition, it is about shaping that transition in a fair manner. And for this, it is clear that our contracting parties, the Western Balkans and Ukraine, are not in a pole position, especially if you compare them to the European Union. I'm not talking about the economic situation only. I'm also talking about a mindset. In the European Union, in the member states of the European Union, especially in Western Europe, evidently the Green Deal didn't fall from the sky. The Green Deal has been preceded by a long history of decarbonization, a long history of diversification and decentralization. I'm thinking here of the phenomena such as prosumers, which are consuming and producing electricity at the same time, something where we have to still catch up enormously in the region and in the countries that we are talking about. I'm also thinking about deployment of renewables more massively. That is taking off now in the energy community, in the contracting parties, excuse me, but evidently it is a development that is just about to start. It is starting massively. Yes, we see a change and we see the change coming, but in the contracting parties, in the energy community, we don't benefit from years of experience which have also changed the mindset of those who are in charge of electricity companies, of mining companies, of regions, of national governments alike. So indeed, we have to start again and go back to communicating and sharing experience, another important asset of the initiative that we all engage in. And maybe lastly, also the contracting parties do not benefit from a lot of experience with the regulatory tools that have been proven smart and supportive to the transition. Carbon price is one of them, which plays a big role in shaping the transition in the European Union. But others, other regulatory instruments, for example, relate to smart support schemes and auctioning of support schemes of renewables. That's also relatively recent developments in the energy community, thanks also to engagements of many partners around here, such as the EBRD, and we're working closely with them. While the European Union has banking on these smart regulatory tools already for years, the contracting parties of the energy community have still been and are still concerned with rather basic approaches such as end consumer price regulation. In other words, we are, with the energy transition, we are engaging in something like a sprint where the contracting parties and their regions are in a situation of somebody at the starting block, looking left or right and seeing on the lane next to them Usain Bolt just starting, and it is evident that catching up will need more than just sharing this experience. It may also need a little bit of doping. I know that doping is illegal, and that's why I'm using it in a metaphorical sense. And of course, I'm referring here to the financial support that is needed to not only the transition as such, but also to keep the transition fair and just. And here we remark the obvious, that there is no just transition fund available for the energy community, that the support available by different institutions, including and first and foremost the EU, is sometimes a little bit erratic and may need to be more streamlined and better streamlined. We developed the idea of establishing national funds that could be fed by instruments such as carbon pricing and could be topped up by international donors and then be made available for the purpose of the just transition. That would be one instrument, how to make sure that in combination, national efforts, revenues available to the budget, but also international support could go directly to the causes that we are talking here about. And in this respect, as it is clear that financial support is probably among the most difficult topics to be discussed, we believe that the raising awareness and the exchanging experience in this transition, in our initiative here, is of the utmost importance. We are engaging in that, as I said, not only with our hearts and minds, but also with our own set of initiatives. We have put a focus here in the Energy Community Secretariat on just transition as well, in which participating as a principal plays an important role. But we would also like to do more in terms of researching, but then in terms of also making policy proposals to support, for instance, the fight against energy poverty, the enhancement of gender equality, or helping regions, again, local communities, to get out of the problems they have with air pollution, which are probably the most visible and the most pressing problems they have. And in all of these initiatives, we learn something that we learn also here in our joint engagement, and that is the beauty of exchanging. That is the beauty also of generating ideas. We are, another lesson learned after 15 years or so of energy community experience, we are not in a region that is only at the receiving end of whatever has happened in the European Union, and that it will be extended to countries who are supposed to follow and only learn. Yes, it is important, and that is a benefit which countries are ready to take advantage of. But I think we will also see in the course of our joint journey and adventure that these countries have a lot to give, a lot of ideas, a lot of projects where we hope that we can feed something back also to the European Union and become also, in our joint concern about the just transition, part of the wider European family. I would stop here and hand back to Elodie.
Thank you very much, Dirk. I see there was a comment or question to you in the chat. And thank you, Iryna Novak, also from the Energy Community Secretariat, who kindly replied to the question. And indeed, there will be a Just Transition Forum. I believe it's next week, which is happening also organized by the Energy Community Secretariat. Before moving on to, yes, exactly, June 30th. Thank you, Iryna. Before moving to the next presentation, I saw there was a question also to Andi from the EBRD. So I would like to invite back Andi on the floor, on the stage, so that we can reply to the question, which was, so are there principles and rules in place for the selection of supported projects in North Macedonia, and how are local stakeholders in Kičevo regions involved in just transition diagnostic?
Okay, thanks, Elodie. So basically, at this point in time, I think the idea of the Just Transition Diagnostic itself is to serve as a sort of like as a strategic policy initiative, which will aim to both identify the concrete investments that will be supported, and also to detail the policy instrument the government can deploy in order to support the just transition. Now, in terms of the work in Kičevo region, this will also cover Bitula, which also has a very large plant. We are at the very initial stage. So at this stage, we are preparing a stakeholder engagement plan. So we have retained, together with the European with the EU delegation in North Macedonia. We have retained a consultancy firm to support us in the preparation of the just transition diagnostic. They are doing a similar assignment, by the way, in Greece and West Macedonia, part of Greece, where the process is more advanced, so they have experience in this, and they will assist us in deploying both stakeholder engagement strategy to cover all of the stakeholders whose actions and investments are directly or indirectly related to the transition. And in this pool of stakeholders, we're going to include international, national authorities, regional, local, social partners, academia, business sector, civil society, environmental organizations. So basically it will include everyone, and there will be an active, let's say, stakeholder engagement strategy by facilitating the interaction through both interviews and workshops. As I mentioned, we are at the process of designing and preparing this, but there will be extensive stakeholder engagement in the region, both Kičevo and Bitola.
Great, thank you very much, Andi. I see there's also a question to Iryna, and maybe I can reply to this question. Very good point also. So does the Secretariat of the Initiative plan to hold bilateral meetings with the countries of the core regions, with relevant state authorities and local communities? That's a very good point. We do actually plan to organize local workshops. So in the regions also. So of course we will make sure to invite all stakeholders, all relevant stakeholders, and to have a diverse also crowd. That's for sure. And if you have any questions, also if you have also any suggestion, I invite you to email us at the Secretariat email address, and we'll be happy to provide any reply to your question or requests. All right, let's move on, and I would like now to invite Dr. Olaf Osica from the College of Europe in Natolin. As you know, learning is very important, and there's a dedicated also component of the initiative related to learning and training, and so that's why I would like to invite Olaf. I hope you can hear me, Olaf. Maybe a couple of seconds. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Yes, no,
Yes.
it's fine. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elodie. Hello, everyone. Well, indeed, I guess among the key stakeholders of that process, we have the most operational role in this regard when it comes to education. But let me start with introducing the College of Europe in Natolin that was established in 1992. And that was the first academic institution providing postgraduate European studies in Central Eastern Europe after the end of the Cold War. And we also, the other, so to speak, branch of our activities is executive education. So the Coal Regions Learning Academy, which I'm going to talk about, fits in this executive education branch. So thank you. Well, the first slide. So as you can see, and Mike and Stanley has already said about the World Bank approach to the energy transition, and since the project we are conducting in college is with the help of the World Bank and also the European Commission. So let me just very briefly say that our basic idea is simply to provide knowledge to everyone who's interested in the energy transition, especially in the context of the coal regions transition. So the idea of the project is to provide specialized non-degree e-learning courses for which will be open for everyone, along with the different learning tools, a variety of videos, audio and video material, and also repository of reports, analysis, and policy papers. So basically, we provide knowledge, and then we provide you with the help of the World Bank and the GOXI platform. You have the internet address at the bottom of the slide. There's going to be a repository of all the material that's going to be created within the academy, and as I said, I will stress it again, it's going to be open for everyone who has interest in the energy transition. If I may ask for the second slide. Second slide. Okay, yes. And as Mike and Stanley has said it, I mean, our approach to the entire material, to the e-learning courses, as you can see, fits that matrix. So we're gonna look at the three elements of cold regions transition. First, the institutional governance, so the entire context of institutions, stakeholders, and so on and so forth. Then we got people and communities, and here we have the entire context of social, local determinants of the cold regions transition. And then we have the environmental reclamation and repurposing of land and assets approach, which is basically, I would say, it's more technical, and it's about how to change or cultivate the physical ground former factories, how to fit them into the new green economy. And those three elements, as you can see, this institutional governance, people and communities, and environmental reclamation, we look at them through the prism of three key cold transition phases, which is the pre-closure planning, the closure, and the regional transition. Well, you may wonder, or you may ask, I mean, how do we define the pre-closure planning, closure, and regional transition? Well, it would be a good question. I guess, I mean, many countries, many regions are actually closing down their coal plants without actually, well, fully admitting it officially. So the boundaries between pre-closure and closure actually are not so clear. But anyway, I mean, this is our approach, and we hope to stick to this, just to provide knowledge. What is the difference? I mean, what do you need to know when you plan closure? What do you need to know when you're actually in the phase of closure? And then case studies of regional transitions. There are not so many case studies for regional transition, but as we are globally at the beginning of the process. But anyway, we're gonna also look at those cases where when we've seen the regional transition already happening. And another slide, please. And just to give you a sense of what we are doing and what is our schedule, I mean, by the end of the year, we're gonna provide 6 e-learning courses with the help of the key stakeholders present also today. Well, first we start on so to speak, we go top down. So we start with 3 horizontal courses, and we're gonna deliver them till the end of September this year. The first course will be on basically the context and its key elements. So basically the idea of the cold regions transition. What you need to know, what are the key phases. Then we have the getting it right, so timeline for pre-closure to regional transition. And then people, environment, physical assets. So it's going to be 3 first more general courses, which altogether should define or to show to the learners the big picture of the cold regions transition. And then in the second move, we're going to provide till the end of December, also this year. So as you can see, the schedule is tight. 3 sectoral courses. When we develop the certain ideas from the horizontal courses, first of all, the issue of funding, which is one of the critical ones. So to put it differently, how to prepare bankable transition projects. Bankable meaning, not only where to find money, but actually just how to apply for this money, how to prepare all the necessary documentation, data, whatever. I mean, it's a very complex process. So knowing where is money, it's not enough actually to get the money. We all know that very well. The second sectoral course will be on shielding measures for local communities. So all issues related to regulatory aspects, some international European standards, how to deal with people working in the sector, then being transformed, reskilled, all the entire social dimension of the energy transition. It was stressed many times yesterday and also today. I think it's one of the most important elements of that in order to get not only hearts and minds of people and to get their support, but actually to be able just to talk to them and to explain, you know, what will happen to local communities while the coal transition is happening. And the last one, which is for cultivation and protection of health and environment, which again, this is a more specific course on, you know, many, you know, in detail aspects of the environmental context of the energy transition. So this is what we are going to do by the end of the year. And as I mentioned, I mean, you will be informed. I mean, if only we have those. I mean, the course will be delivered by the end of September. So once they are available through the GOXI website, you will be informed through the newsletter of the Secretariat. So I strongly encourage you to follow our work, and also once the learning courses are being published and made available, also to get a feedback to us, because I guess this is something which is just this is the beginning of the process. We hope to deliver not only more e-learning courses, but also go to more into details and to address all those aspects which are important from the point of view of those who are mostly affected by the coal regions transitions, people living in those communities. So that was me. Thank you very much, Elodie. And if there are any questions, I'm of course ready to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olaf. And in the meantime, I saw that Iryna posted a link to the European Commission webpage on the Core Learning Academy. So I invite also participants to have a look, and also can look at the website of the College of Europe to get more information about the academy. And so thank you again, Olaf, for your presentation.
Thank you, Elodie.
All right. Speaking about learning and knowledge exchange, I would like to invite on the floor on the virtual stage, Mr. Artur Lorkowski, who is Deputy President of the Management Board at the Polish National Fund for Environmental Protection and Water Management. He will be presenting you the Polish-Ukrainian twinning of coal regions. Artur, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elodie. Thank you for having the National Fund among the principles of this very important initiative, and this is my pleasure to present to you tonight in close cooperation with the World Bank and to the practical information. I would like to share some information with you on the institution I'm representing today. The National Fund has a vast experience in financing the climate, environmental and energy transition in Poland, including the transition of coal regions and coal-dependent industries in order to enhance land repurposing and reclamation. So this is the heritage of my institution, and this is the heritage we would like to share with the partners from the outside of the European Union. Next slide, please. The idea to join this initiative was born after the COP24 in Katowice, at the very heart of the Polish mining industry. You might remember that the Polish presidency proposed to the countries at the COP summit to join the Solidarity and Just Transition Declaration. And this declaration is a starting point for the further discussion. Next slide, please. The word was made flesh, I would say, and now we are among the principles presenting to you today a bunch of initiatives which are being implemented in the framework of the initiative for the coal regions for the Western Balkans and Ukraine. And specifically, I would like to present the Polish-Ukrainian twinning, which is a pilot attempt to test some conceptual approaches we have developed together with the World Bank and the European Commission in order to scale up this initiatives in the future, in the years to come. So far, we have organized 2 study visits to Poland, unfortunately online visits, and the third one is going to start tomorrow, and this one will be concentrate and focus on the lignite. The series of in total 5 study visits for Ukrainian stakeholders is being organized by the Institute for Ecology of the Industrial Areas in Katowice in Poland, in close cooperation with the local partner, which is the Mining Institute, the central institution, a leading institution on coal industry and the transition from coal. What is important, and what I would like to emphasize, is the full alignment with the Coal Learning Academy, which has been already presented by Olaf. And we see these 2 elements as 2 indispensable parts of one coin. So on one hand, you I hope will enjoy the learning exercises and learning experience by the academy, and on the other hand, that what we are presenting right now is more experience-driven encounter, which is being offered by the National Fund in cooperation with the World Bank and the European Commission. As I mentioned before, the next slide, please. We are moving ahead very fast because the clock is ticking on the just transition, and we are more than fully aware of the expectations of our partners from outside of the European Union. That's why, for example, just to show you the flexibility we have, the tomorrow visit, the third one to be launched tomorrow, is to be organized in the lignite industry areas in Poland. So this was very specific expectations from the Ukrainian regions to concentrate on that very specific issue. And we take this challenge, and now we are inviting our colleagues from Ukraine to look at the experience of transforming the lignite regions in Poland. So I'm saying that just to emphasize that the encounter, which is proposed by the National Fund in cooperation with other institutions, is tailor-made, is reflecting fully the expectations of the Ukrainian regions, and that is the reason why we planned another, and I hope on-site study visit, if the pandemic circumstances would allow so, to take place in autumn this year, and we hope to welcome our friends from Ukraine to Poland and to see on the spot the developments which have been described so far by online presentation only. What is important and what I'd like to signal at this stage is that we are discussing internally, and we have already taken the decision to move towards the Western Balkan countries, and we will start the discussion soon with the Western Balkan regions, whether there is an interest to copy the same exercise to the representatives from the Western Balkans, and we would be keen to have the same scale, the same tailor-made project to be offered to the other regions from the initiative. So we have tested some very basic concepts, how to exchange on the experiences, how to encounter each other, how to make the networking possible, how to organize the exchange of knowledge and exchange of experience more efficient. And now we are moving forward to scale up this project, I hope, with the Western Balkans region. And this is the very immediate step we are gonna to take in the weeks and months to come. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much, Elodie, for organizing this very important panel. And I'm very ready to take any questions if they might occur.
Thank you very much, Artur. Indeed, there's a question actually addressed to you from somebody from the audience asking, are there any public results of those study tours? So for instance, reports or any, surveys, results, or anything that could be shared with the audience?
Sure. Yes, this is the open experience exchange exercise. So we would like to have a spillover effects on other regions, and we would be ready to share with those who are interested the materials which have been produced during the study visit.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'll take one last question because I see the clock is running. Do you have information on how participating countries are using the process of developing their updated nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement and preparation of the National Energy and Climate Action Plans, so NECPs, to address the issue of just transition? So any examples perhaps to share or worth duplicating?
So I think that this is the question which should be more answered by our friends from the Energy Community Secretariat. They explained very well what is the role of the Secretariat in following the issue of how the countries in question are preparing the NDCs, which should be presented, or they have already should be presented to the COP26 in Glasgow. But what is certain and what is important, that the just transition element are expected to be a part of the NDCs to be.
I think your connection, Artur, is not optimal. We'll perhaps try to get you back. I see that Dirk, you appeared on the screen. Maybe you want to briefly reply?
Yes, I can do that with pleasure. And while Artur is reconnecting, also thanks for him and his commitment to this course, which indeed we try in the energy community first and foremost to address through what we call the acquis communautaire. So the rules that we have taken over from the European Union, these are the national energy and climate plans. And thanks for the question, Ivan, because the Secretariat role, our Secretariat's role, is to work together with the contracting parties, with everybody part of this initiative, in drafting these national energy and climate plans, and then formally also giving recommendations. And to highlight the importance of just transition in these plans is definitely one of our key focus and what we consider as a very important element, precisely because these plans, due to the very wide and comprehensive structure that they have, but also due to the quantifiable approach. So this is not just an energy strategy where countries would put together a couple of issues, measures, and policies that they aim to do. This comes really as close to a commitment and definitely as close to being frank, open, honest, and reliable as one can get in policy making. So just transition and everything related to it needs to take an important place, and we ensure this in every review that we do. We also do review the NDCs, the NDC tools, because evidently there is a close link, despite this is a UN commitment. There is a close link to national energy policy, to national climate policy, and to these NECPs. I'm sorry for all the abbreviation. That is the task of my colleague Iryna, who's here with us as well. So if you have any question also to how the NDCs and the NECPs are congruent, are coherent with each other, and to what extent just transition aspects are being reflected there, don't hesitate turning to her. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dirk, for this comprehensive reply. Let's move on now. I'm aware of the time, so I would like now to invite Matteo Rivellini from the European Investment Bank, who is the third multilateral development bank, also part of this initiative. Matteo is head of division for Slovenia, Croatia, and Western Balkans, and he will be also joined by his colleague, also Rafal Rybacki from the Eastern Neighbourhoods division. So now the floor is yours, Matteo.
Thank you. Thank you, Elodie, and many thanks for having put together this very interesting panel. The European Investment Bank, as the climate bank of the European Union, is extremely pleased to be part of this initiative for the coal region in transition in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. And we are all collectively looking forward to contributing as much as possible to this initiative for the benefit of this transition, this just transition that is already in full swing, as was mentioned before. I will try to be very telegraphic to pass on to you some key messages to remember today about how the EIB can contribute to this initiative and what the EIB, what is the ambition of the EIB based on what we've done already in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. Next slide, please. First question is, what do we offer to this region in transition? What do we have to bring to this the region? Well, three things. We offer financial products, both loans and guarantees. We offer technical assistance, and we offer blended finance. So we are able to combine our, let's say, financial resources on a loan basis or on a funding basis together with the grant resources that we gather primarily from European member states or European Commission. And what is our distinctive element? What does the EIB as one of the key financial partners in these regions for the benefit of this initiative? Just a few elements. Number one, the pricing, the competitive pricing. Thanks to our credit standing, we are capable to raise on the capital markets extremely cheap funding that we are able then to pass on to our final beneficiaries at extremely attractive conditions and terms. Along with it, we provide possibly the longest maturities and the most flexible terms, particularly in areas and sectors that require extremely long period for returning on investments, and this is one of them in the decades to come. And then we bring our expertise. Since more than 60 years, we've been called also the bank of engineers, the bank of economists, the bank of specialists, because what happens is that actually we have in-house more than 300 engineers that are working on a daily basis at cutting edge technologies and are assessing, let's say, the latest developments on each sector to provide advice, to provide assessment on each investment we are doing so that these investments are matching the best available standards, not only at European level, but at global level. Because of this reason, when the EIB participates to an investment or to an initiative, the EIB has a sort of catalyst effect. It means that because of the label of the EIB, then other financiers, including private sector financiers, are more willing, more prone into coming and joining the same investment. So we are this capacity, if you like, to multiply also and to leverage our financial resources thanks to the possibility to crowd in other financiers. We're also having the possibility, thanks to the guarantee that we're offered by the European Union, to carve out certain political risks from the lending that either the bank or other co-financiers are executing in these regions. Last but not least, we have a substantial experience in regions that have already started the transition, shifting away from coal. You might have heard that since last year, the EIB is not financing any more fossil fuels. Actually, that relates to gas, including gas infrastructure. We, as far as coal is concerned, our last commitment was finalized more than 15 years ago. I was in Slovenia, and that was the very last investment we've done in coal. So what I'm trying to say, since at least 15 years, we have been working very extensively on regions starting from Poland, Germany, and other countries in Central Europe to accompany them in their transition. That is not the case. The fact that we are also part of, and we are a key partner in the same initiative for the European member states. So we have developed all this experience that make us very well aware of the consequence of the impact of this transition, and particularly as far as social consequences are concerned. So we're very capable to understand these matters, and we're willing to contribute also in the Western Balkans and Ukraine. Next slide, please. Speaking of Western Balkans, so how does these, or what I've said, spell out in the region of the Western Balkans? Well, we have one of the largest, historically the largest financier in the region. We have, to give you the order of magnitude, we have financed about almost 9 billion euros since 2009 in the region. We have, contributed to the development of the region, and to primarily to the closing of the gap, particularly in terms of infrastructure gap, that makes still this region distant from the standards of the European Union. But more specifically, what are our polar stars, our strategic trajectories going forward? Clearly, we are working day and night on the support for the governmental policies for the post-pandemic, for the economic recovery. But beyond this, obviously, we're still very much committed on the infrastructure financing in terms of connectivity, being part of the so-called Berlin process. We are very much involved in the implementation of the economic and investment plan of the European Union for the region of the Western Balkans, in particular as far as the digital agenda and the green agenda is concerned, and without forgetting also the private sector and the SMEs in particular, speaking when the SMEs are proposing an inclusive type of investments also for the least fortunate areas of the populations. In addition to that, we're offering technical assistance, advisory, again, thanks to our capacity that we have developed in-house. And last but not least, we combine our financial resources with other grant resources that are coming from different sources. For example, I would like to mention two. One is the Economic and Resilience Initiative that has given us the opportunity since 5 years now to promote even further the investments in the Western Balkans and in the southern neighborhood that further strengthen the resilience, the economic resilience of these countries. This has allowed us also to make sure that, for example, in Bosnia, we are very much committed to provide European finance for renewable sources, for energy generation coming from the renewable sources, as a signal of antagonist signal to some other financiers coming from Far East that are still supporting additional coal generation, additional electricity generation fed by lignite. In addition to that, and even as a more capable pot of money and source of funding, because it also comes from the European taxpayers' money, is the WBIF, the Western Balkan Investment Framework, that is providing both technical assistance and investment grants. And we've been capable to channel a lot of these resources to investments that have been carried out by our partners in the region. And we're happy to to keep on supporting this initiative by prioritizing areas that are suffering from the transition. I mean, Andi from the EBRD, that is one of our partners. We're working together with EBRD on many projects. I've already mentioned a few areas that are particularly sensitive as far as social consequences, but we're also happy to provide, in terms of in social sector, additional investments, also thanks to this blended finance, to further alleviate the consequences of this transition from in the particularly hit areas of this region. And on this note, I would like to conclude by thanking you very much and by telling you that I'm available for any questions you may have. And I let my colleague Rafal to take over as far as Ukraine is concerned. Thank you.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. So I'm responsible for our lending in the public sector in Ukraine. I'll be very short. Matteo has described it beautifully, what we do, what we can offer. I just have one slide for you. It's about Ukraine, what we do in Ukraine. I'm not going to read it to you. That'll be too easy. Let me just perhaps share with you a few thoughts that come out of this slide and kind of complement what Matteo already said. So there is no such a project as Just Transition. Just Transition is a very comprehensive program of various investments that encompass many sectors, affect usually millions of people, and are spread in time over many years, even decades. Just Transition is not only the transition from fossil fuel-based energy generation to more sustainable renewable generation. It goes into more sectors than just energy. It is also about offering people alternative jobs. So it's about attracting other businesses, but it is also about offering people social infrastructure that will fill the gap when the coal is gone. So if you want to be successful in this process, you need to have a partner that will be in a position to carry out such large multi-sector investment programs. You need a partner that will be able to work not only with the public sector, but also with other stakeholders such as banks, corporates, SMEs, other international financial institutions, microfinance. You need a partner that will be able to promote best practice that exists in Europe, all these quality standards that we're so proud of in the EU, in terms of not only technical standards, but also social standards, environmental procurement standards. And finally, you want to have a partner that has lots of experience from many other countries. And you've heard today many presentations of such institutions that could help you along these lines because they meet all these criteria. And certainly I'm proud to say that EIB is one of these partners. And on this slide, you have an example of how much we have already done in Ukraine. And you can even see certain elements of Just Transition in various other projects, which so far perhaps have not been labeled as Just Transition. And then maybe the last one comment before I conclude. You've heard today about Katowice. Katowice, in Poland, the capital of the coal mining region of Silesia. There used to be a coal mine in the city of Katowice, actually in the very center of Katowice. The coal mine was called Katowice Coal Mine. It was closed in 1999. So not so long time ago, only 20-something years ago. It had operated for 176 years. It had produced 120 million tons of coal. Now, today, in the same place where this coal mine was located, there's a museum, there's a conference hall, and there's a beautiful philharmony, and EIB financed this philharmony. This is an example that Just Transition is also about filling the gap that is there. And when you now take a taxi, go through the city of Katowice, very few people remember the coal mine. They all point out the beautiful philharmony that is built on the site. And again, I'm very happy. I was there when we opened up the philharmony. I could hear the first concert. I was very proud to be part of this. So just to conclude, it is a very long process. But it is also a very rewarding process, and I hope we can accompany you in various countries in Western Balkans or in Ukraine in this process. On the last slide, you will see mine and Matteo's contact details in case you have any other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rafal, and thank you again, Matteo, for your presentation. I think we all deserve a quick break now before going to the session on the exchange program. So let's have a break and reconvene in 6 minutes. So at 4 Brussels time. Thank you very much.